Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel, and my latest video is on how I am doing my January budget and how I use the Dave Ramsey system. I also use the YNAB spreadsheet system, YNAB being you need a budget. So YNAB is the tool that I use in order to live into the Dave Ramsey philosophy. For all of you who don't know who Dave Ramsey is, I heartily recommend that you look him up on YouTube. He is the author of Financial University, Financial Peace, and a number of other books, videos. He has a radio station that is exceedingly inspiring. But basically, the crux of it is what you see in front of you. It is the 7 baby steps. And each one of these is basically a way of having the discipline to go from being in debt and being careless with money to a point where, comparatively speaking, you will be wealthy, have your home paid off, and you'll be in a position to give. So the baby steps are to be done in order. So the first one is £1,000 in an emergency fund. This is your basic emergency fund. This is your, oh my God, if the washing machine broke tomorrow. So that really just gives you a little bit of fund, security blanket, let's say, in order to start you off on the journey. Once you've got that in place, then you move on to baby step 2, which is probably where most people spend much of their energy, time, and pain, is paying off all your debt. Once you have done that, you then revert to your emergency fund. And this time, instead of just having that very basic one, you put 3 to 6 months expenses into savings. Now, expenses isn't every spend that you would normally have. It's not 3 to 6 months of wages, although if you could get 3 to 6 months of wages, that would be awesome. But basically is, what do you need to live on and pay out in order to keep a roof over your head and put food on the table, and give up everything else should you need to. So that's what that is. Once that's done, then you move on to the fun stuff, which is invest 15% of income into, now this is American, Roth IRAs and pre-tax retirement, basically pension and investments is what we would have in the UK. So pension and investments. And once you have that 15% put away, and so these ones now then become sort of concurrent. Personal development fund, now that could be college funds for kids, it could be career funds to give yourself more education or professional certifications, or putting something to your children's funds. And then pay off your home early, which is, I think, what most people want to do when they pay off all their debt. They want to start on this one straight away. But basically, should the worst happen, you want to have your expenses in place. So once you've got your expenses in place and you've got no debt, then, as I say, these can be done concurrently, where you're starting to pay off your home, you're putting some money away to personal development, and you're also saving for your retirement. And once you have your home paid off, and you're probably still putting some of this away as well, you may have already completed this, and obviously you can complete that, then you can build wealth and give. And this is where you really start to invest. And Dave Ramsey has 4 investment portfolios, shall we say, that he suggests that you put into growth and income and some other bits and pieces, and then give. And that's where basically you can go into a restaurant and leave somebody $100 tip, or give generously to your clubs or churches or whatever that may be that you you want to give. Pay it forward, I suppose, is another way of saying it. Dave Ramsey very much has a Christian philosophy for all this. I am actually an atheist, but it doesn't mean to say that I can't live into his philosophy. Because really religion doesn't really come into it, but that's the only thing I'm going to say on that. So that is where we are in the Dave Ramsey 7 Baby Steps. I am currently, well, I had finished baby step 1 until Christmas came up, and then Christmas is not an emergency, but I had some payments that I overspent a little bit, and I had a couple of things come out of my account that I had forgotten were going to be coming out, so I had to dip into it. So I'm fluctuating between these two right now. So let's go to my budget and I'll show you what I mean. I haven't put exact dollars or pound figures down, but I'll just show you exactly how my money gets allocated every month. So January, give every dollar a job. So I work on a zero budget philosophy. So any money coming in will automatically be allocated to one of these items here. Okay. And I have some on the other side as well. And I should be left with a zero amount left to budget once I've completed this. Now, in order to do that, I use YNAB. You need a budget. You can get it for about £20, I think, on Steam. They do £10 off or other discounts in various places. You can Google and get a discount. But really, I've invested in this. I love it. I use it every single day. It's one of the first things I do when I turn on my computer every morning is I go into my YNAB, I go into my current account online, and I update any direct debits or any payments that have come out. And that's the discipline that I'm trying to get into. The other thing I do is when I do tend to overspend, I tend to hide from my YNAB and my current account, because I know I'm going to have to go in and basically work to rebalance the books. And the only way I can rebalance them if I've overspent is taking it out of some of my savings, or as I did in December, I had to take it out of my emergency fund. And I don't want to do that going forward. So therefore, I have to ensure that I am sticking to my budget, my discipline. So that's why I try to go into my YNAB spreadsheet every single day, and I mark everything off. So direct debits, these are the things that come out. I try and get as many out at the beginning of the month. I get paid monthly. So as much as I can, I try and have everything come out in the first of the month so that whatever I have left, I know how it's going to be allocated. Some of these are fixed amounts that come out. So my mortgage, pension, TV license that we have to have in the UK, my Sky TV, cable, or satellite TV, rates, which is like the council tax in the rest of the UK, car insurance. The ones that I have little stars against are ones that are not fixed amounts. So obviously my phone, BT phone, my mobile, credit card, that's a different one. That is basically, there's obviously a minimum amount that comes out, but that's the one that gets over allocated, shall we say, or more money goes on to it depending on how much I've got left at the end of the month. And then childcare varies depending on the number of days that I have. So I have to put in a maximum amount in order to account for the maximum that I would possibly be spending. And then anything that I don't spend in that obviously can then get put into either my emergency fund or into my baby step 2, which is paying off the debt. So direct debits, total X. Monthly spends, this is where I use my cash envelope system. The cash envelope system is basically Dave Ramsey's way of keeping everybody on budget. Obviously, a lot of mine is coming out of direct debits, so I only use these amounts in my cash envelope system. So groceries, petrol, my spending money, school money for my son for lunches and other bits and pieces, clothing budget, and any miscellaneous. And the miscellaneous is basically my buffer amount, so that should I have an unfortunate spend or forget something, I have a miscellaneous bucket where it can be used. Now, the rest of these are quarterly and yearly ones. I try and pay as many things as I can on a yearly basis, so I don't have them in direct debits, because you do pay an interest payment on some of them. So I'm trying to reduce the number of direct debits that I can and pay as much as I can on a yearly basis to maximise the amount of discount that I can get. I pay my electricity up front. I have a payment meter, so I normally put in either £50 in the summer or £75 in the winter. That's roughly how much that is. So that's what gets budgeted, and then I sort of pay it on a quarterly basis, because you get a little bit of money added to that. So if you spend over £150 in one go, you get an extra £4 or something added to it. My car park I pay quarterly as well, so I can get the maximum discount, but I budget it on a monthly basis. My home insurance I pay again on a yearly basis, but in order to then have the money in my account when it's due the following year, I need to budget that. And the same with my car tax. I have to budget that. Even though I pay it yearly, I have to budget it for over the period of 12 months in order to be able to pay it when it's due. And the same goes for things like my MOT. Although it's only about 40 quid, I want to budget that over a year, so £5 a month or something goes into there. Same with my car service, it sort of goes hand in hand with my MOT, so I have to make sure that I have money for that. My AA, fourth emergency service, I have had calls to use them about 5 times this year because my battery kept going flat for whatever reason. So I have to budget for AA being paid once a year. And then in order to maximise 10% saving on my phone, my landline, I pay it a year in advance. And again, I have to have then subsequent amounts each month in order to then have that in the following year. And these are all starting to come up in the next few months. So if I don't have enough in it, the following months or the next couple of months, I'm going to have to add more money and more budgeting to these amounts in order to make sure that I have sufficient amount come the time. So everything else after that goes into sync funds. So baby step 1 is the emergency fund, which I have to replenish from December. So I'll be putting a certain amount into that. And basically anything that I have left over, baby step 2 is the paying off the debt. So I actually, although I have here a direct debit for my credit card, which is actually my car loan. It's the only debt that I have is a car loan. The minimum amount is £40, but what I do is I actually pay £250 a month off that, so I can pay it off early. So it's actually a static amount, but it goes into sync fund here because it's an overpayment. And anything that I have over and above these regular overpayments will then go on top of this again. I hope that makes sense. But the other thing is at the moment, instead of so the regular amount overspend I have, or overpayment I should say, is 210 because I have £40 of a minimum. I pay that off anyway. So it's almost like a direct debit. At the moment, I'm trying to replenish my emergency fund. So where I would have put everything, the remainders into here, I'm actually putting it into one to bring that back up to £1,000. I hope that makes sense. So if I have like £3.32 left over, when I've allocated all the amounts out, that would go into baby step 1, not baby step 2, paying off the debt. I do have a regular saver, £100 a month. That's a 6% interest. So I want to keep that going. Vacation, I do allocate some money to that for next year's holiday. Same with Christmas. I've got to start budgeting for that again, and some birthdays. So each of these have a static amount every month that goes in here. So when I total all this up, again, XYZ, that's the total outgoings. I have my total incomings, and whatever is left should go down on paying down the debt. But because I've overspent on my emergency fund, I dipped into it in December, I have to replenish that. So everything is actually going to go into baby step 1 until I get that back up to £1,000. And then thereafter, everything will then start to go into baby step 2. So I was on baby step 2. But because I use my emergency fund, I've got to step back down to step 1 to replenish that up, and then I carry back on with step 2. Now, because I only have one, which is the car loan, and because I'm already overpaying on it, I'm concentrating on 1, but I'm still working on 2, if that makes sense. And in some ways, I'm actually still working on baby step 3, because this regular saver, £100 a month, I can't touch it for a year. but I hope to have my emergency fund and my car loan paid off this year. So I'm getting a little bit of a mini head start on baby step 3, which is the 3 to 6 months in expenses in savings on this as well. So I am doing it a little bit naughtily, and I'm not following it rigidly, but this is working for me, and I am maximizing a bit of interest here. So when you take your outgoings from your income, hopefully you have a positive balance. You've got something left over at the end of the month, and that money goes to paying down your credit card or whatever debt you have. And Dave Ramsey has a lot of information out there on the debt snowball, where you line all your debts up, and I only have one, which is the car, but you line everything up and you pay minimum on everything except for the smallest one. And the smallest one, anything you have left over, you put it against that smallest one. And then when that's paid off, you then take the extra that you had plus the amount you're paying on that smallest one, and then you put it to the next one. And when that's done, you add those 3 up and you add it to the next one. So basically you're snowballing. The amount you're paying off each debt gets bigger as you start knocking off the smaller ones. So that is how I am budgeting for January. And as I say, I am currently working on baby step 1, 2, and 3 concurrently, but really I'm concentrating on any extras, any money that I get left over, I'm going to be putting into my emergency fund. And that's all being done online, and I'm not taking any money out in order to do that. What I am taking money out for each month into the cash envelope system is my monthly spends. So how do I do that? Okay, so I have here my little Filofax budgeting spreadsheets that I am going to be writing down. As you can see, groceries, and then I'll put the date that I take the money out, and that will go into the positive balance. And then from there on, basically, it'll be spends. And what I'm doing is I have taken, and this is the amounts that I am going to be taking out this month. £300 for groceries, £120 for petrol, £50 for spends, £30 for school dinners and any clubs that he needs to go to, and then £100 miscellaneous. And that basically, that £100 is for, it's almost like my mini emergency fund. So anything that I have to pay over and above that I haven't allocated that doesn't fit into one of these other pockets will come out of this one. So what I do then is I go to the bank, I take the money out, and then I put it into this one envelope. Now, I know Dave Ramsey says put in an envelope for every single one of your items, but I just use the one. It just works for me, and it's a little bit more secure for me as well. So I will have then one of these for every one of these items here, and and then what I'll do is I will write down every single thing that's spent under each of these categories, and categories was the word I was looking for. And then every night I tally up and make sure that the amount I have left in here matches the balances that I have for groceries, petrol, spends, school, etc., etc. And that is how I use the cash envelope system, and that's how it works for me using Dave Ramsey's system. So I do it a little bit differently than what he suggests, but you've got to make it work for you. You've got to make it work that you can control your spending, your budgeting, and at the end of the day, every dollar has a job, and you are living within your means whilst achieving the goals that you have, whether that be paying down debts, whether that be saving, putting in money into your retirement. And again, I go back to the 7 baby steps. Step 1, £1,000 in emergency fund. Step 2, paying off your debt. 3 to 6 months in expenses. 4, your retirement fund. 5, personal development fund. 6, pay off your house early. 7, build wealth and give. And the only ones that you're supposed to do concurrently are 4, 5, and 6. Excuse me. But because I have to be contrary, I'm kind of doing 1, 2, and 3 concurrently. 1, I am still replenishing my emergency fund from having had a spend in it. I am overpaying on my single debt that I have, and I have a regular saver that's going into my 3 to 6 months expenses. I suppose in some ways you could say I'm actually doing baby step 4 as well. Obviously in the UK, a lot of us have to have, in fact, we all have to have a pension through work. And I also pay an extra £100 a month into an older pension that I have. So I am doing this one at the same time. So I am not doing gazelle intensity with my debt, but once my emergency fund is back up to 1,000, anything that I have over and above, anything that I don't spend in this, on my cash envelope system will carry forward to the following month, and then whatever that is will be reduced for the following month. So say, for example, I had £50 left, not likely, but let's just say I had £50 left. Next month, I would only get £250 out. So therefore, I would have £50, which would normally be allocated to groceries. I would be able to then use to either replenish my emergency fund if it's still not up there, or to go back off paying off my car loan. And that's how it works. So hopefully I will have a couple of pounds left over that I can then use to readjust the budget for the following month and keep going with the most important step of all, which is baby step 2, paying off all debt. Hopefully you found this interesting. Welcome all comments. I did have another video on this, but I've deleted it. So this is my version of the Dave Ramsey system. And I also use YNAB in order to put in the actual figures. Here I have obviously specific amounts with my income as well. But give every dollar a job. I use YNAB to basically have that zero budget. So when I look at the top of my YNAB, it says $0 or £0 left to budget. And that is basically because everything has been given a job somewhere into one of these categories. So I will be doing this on a monthly basis to show you how I am progressing with my baby steps. The one that I probably will show you actual figures for as I go through is going to be my cash envelope system. I will keep little videos going of tracking how I spend it, any savings that I make, any additional ways that I'm making, an extra couple of shillings here and there on that. The other thing that I'm doing, just to quickly bring this in, using my Pocket Life cards, not Pocket Life, Project Life cards, apologies folks, Project Life cards. I'm trying to do some no spend days. Again, little fun challenges on Money Saving Expert. I'm going for 12 no spend days in January. So I will be keeping that checked off as I, don't spend any money on a day. And that is basically no spending on the cash envelope system. So I'm only doing it against the cash envelope system. So if I have a day where a direct debit's coming out, I'm not counting that as a no spend day because it's not money going through literally physically going through my hand. So there'll be no spend days against my cash envelope system. And that's what I'll be doing on a weekly basis. I'll do a video of how I've done during the week against my no spend days and against my cash envelope system. So hopefully you found that interesting, guys. I'll let this one go now and talk again soon. Thank you. Bye.